What if I told you one of Africa's fiercest anti-colonial leaders was a young woman in her 20s, and that she brought colonial France to its knees without ever lifting a weapon? Long before hashtags and resistance slogans, there was Aline Diatta, a Serer woman from the Casamance region of southern Senegal. She wasn't a general. She wasn't trained in politics. But in the 1940s, she stood up to one of the world's biggest empires and shook their foundation with nothing but faith, wisdom, and courage. France had colonized Senegal and much of West Africa, forcing Africans to grow export crops like peanuts, imposing brutal head taxes, and seizing land for their benefit. The money? It didn't build African roads, schools, or hospitals. It funded France's wars, especially during World War II, while Africans suffered, starved, and paid for a war they never asked for. This was robbery disguised as government, but Aline wasn't having it. Guided by spiritual visions and rooted in Serer religious traditions, Aline called on her people to stop paying colonial taxes, to refuse growing cash crops for France, and to reclaim their dignity through spiritual and economic self-sufficiency. This was not just resistance, it was revolutionary. In a time when even speaking against the French could mean death, she rallied villages, inspired women, and led what became one of the boldest tax resistance movements in African colonial history. The French were terrified. A woman, unarmed, mobilizing thousands. They arrested her in 1943, dragged her across colonial borders, and exiled her to Timbuktu, where she died under mysterious and likely brutal conditions. She was just in her 20s, but they didn't kill the movement. Aline became a symbol, a flame the French could never extinguish. Today, her name lives on in the streets, stadiums, and stories of Senegal. But more importantly, she represents the unshakable spirit of African resistance, especially among women. If her story moved you, don't let it die in silence. Share this video. Tell someone about Aline Diatta. And never forget, Africa has always had warriors. Some just wore dresses, carried prayers, and walked straight into history.